Today's guest is someone who reminds me that age is never the qualifier. Your vision is. She got her real estate license at 19. She is now 23 years old and leads the largest young professionals network of any brokerage in the entire world. 31 states, 6 countries, and over 20,000 members. And she is just getting started. Gracie, welcome to Built to Belong. I'm excited to get into it today.
Thank you so much for having me. Wow, what an introduction.
Listen, you got your real estate license at 19. Most people at that age are still trying to figure out their college major, let alone like their entire career. What made you decide to bet on yourself and this industry at such an early season of your life?
Okay, it's kind of a funny answer. Someone told me I shouldn't.
Really?
Someone told me not to. An adult in my life, I was 12 when I said I'm going to be a realtor. And it was because someone in my life, an adult, told me that real estate was for women without a career path and you'd never make much money in it. And I was like, oh no, I'm proving this guy wrong. And it became this like fascination, this like hyperfixation for me to really study real estate and real estate icons, particularly focusing on women and people who started young. And I was like, you know what? Like if they can do it, why can't I?
Right. So did you ever have a moment where you almost talked yourself out of it?
Well, yeah, 100%. I mean, it was when I first got started in the industry, I worked so hard to hide my age. And like there's this mega team owner with EXP in my area who I talked to about it. And he did the same thing. Now he was a dude, so he can grow a beard and like he would wear glasses and he did the outfits, worked really, really hard to convince people that he was older than he was. And he told me to drop that. And I didn't listen. I should have.
What I'm taking from it is that you felt like you had to demonstrate an age, that you had to portray an older character, because being so young in the industry, you're navigating a space where people are mostly older than you, who have more life experience, who have done those things. Like me, I just turned 26 last week. I understand. Like I used to also try to portray myself as older, but what I'm hearing is that like you weren't being your authentic self.
Not at all. And that working so hard to show up as someone that's not authentic to myself was exhausting. There's a lot of work and energy and worry that goes into showing up inauthentically. And something I learned, I was almost a year in the business when I figured out that the work of showing up inauthentically was 1,000,000 times harder than any resistance I could face if I just showed up as myself. There was this kind of turning point moment of, I've got to own who I am. I have to own my identity, and I have to do this my way, or I'm going to burn out.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is that early on in the real estate industry, you didn't feel like you had a space to belong. So did you ever like spend time conforming, shrinking yourself to fit in the rooms that weren't built for you in the beginning?
I did the whole like customer service voice and showing up overdressed, and like I did all of it, trying so hard to show up what I thought was the right way. When I got in at 19, the average age of a realtor was 57, 3 times my age, showing up as a teenage girl in the real estate industry.
Yeah. So what changed that for you?
It was that burnout. I had my first 3 contracts were people who, Cameron, when I tell you these people hated me, it is a gross understatement. And I realized later on that I was so insecure and scared and stressed that I was attracting people who were feeding that energy. As soon as I started owning it, then I started attracting exactly the kind of clients that I wanted to work with.
Yeah. So when you started at 19, were you always at EXP?
I was with a boutique for a month before I realized there was just a lack of resources, a lack of looking into the future, a lack of forward thinking that was really holding me back from even wanting to get started.
Yeah. So from the boutique, then you went to EXP?
Yes.
So when you came into EXP, were you looking, so you were obviously attracted to the model that we have, right?
Yes.
What did belonging take play for you at that time? Like, were you looking for community? Like, there's got to be a deeper sense to it than just like, the franchise model and the financial opportunities, but what about the culture?
So when I first joined EXP, I was nervous, cloud-based. There's no office, I thought it was going to be more difficult to build relationships. I did not find EXP young professionals immediately. The community I found first was in my local EXP realty agents, and it was fascinating. It was a very, very different culture and a very different experience to what I had seen prior. These agents around me weren't treating me like competition. They were, in a way, kind of treating me like a plant to water. They were uplifting me, motivating me, inspiring me, giving me resources, giving me a pep talk in the worst, hardest moments. When I first joined EXP, the community that I found wasn't young professionals. It was all of these older agents who were so precious and mentoring, and it was wonderful, but there was still that one disconnect of me being the youngest person in the room by a lot, and there was still something missing. So I found EXP Young Professionals, I want to say I was 9 months in, almost a year. And I came across it on an Instagram post, and that's how I got involved.
And it's crazy to see how you've just taken the lead with this. Like, you found young professionals. Not only did you find young professionals, but you are redefining what culture looks like for young professionals across the industry. Like, young professionals, you've grown this organization. It's an 85-person leadership. You've got over 200 leadership applications that you recently just had to sort out through, and you're 23. So can you walk me through what that actually looks like day to day? Because most people our age aren't operating at that level, that don't understand like what it takes to develop that kind of scale.
I would say it takes, the number one thing it takes between real estate, between leadership, between surviving as a young professional, it takes one thing, and that is delusional confidence. I am talking sheer, unadulterated audacity. It is showing up as the version of yourself that you're like, this is my dream, like this is who I am in my biggest, wildest dreams, and it's being that person even when you're not yet.
Yeah. I always say that temporary defeat, it's only temporary defeat until you accept it as permanent failure. And faith in anything, in a belief, in a goal, in yourself, is a full-fledged fanatical belief that something is true with no evidence of it. And so you're right. Like we were just saying offline, everything that happens in reality comes from a seed of a thought. So you have to understand, like, what are those thoughts, right? Because the power behind that is what omits the reality in front of you. Can you tell me, like, especially leading at scale, and you've talked about just being consistently the youngest person in the room, which I personally relate to you a lot on that. What's the hardest part? Like, you're leading people that are more experienced than you, just like life, right? Like, there's so many seasons of life that people go through, and like oftentimes we've all experienced imposter syndrome. So like, what's the hardest part?
Wow. Like I said a moment ago, sheer audacity. I've got lots of it. I've got very big visions and big dreams. I am willing to set unreasonable goals, and that's kind of where I thrive. So as far as leading people that are older, more experienced, perhaps more put together at times, I would tell you, I think the hardest part is communicating my vision early on. I don't know that it's something I struggle with anymore. I think that I've kind of earned the trust of the team. We're 105 people now on the leadership team, which is insane. Like, I never thought I'd inherit this team. When I got the organization, it was 7,000 people, members, and about 40 leaders by the time we really got started. And the hardest part early on really was like communicating, this is my vision, here's how we're going to get there. So we scaled to 20,000 people in my first year, or less. We hit 300,000 impressions on social media in our first year.
You've scaled this organization, like, under your leadership. It's grown tremendously, right? Going from 7,000 agents to over 20,000 is huge. And I think one of the things I want you to highlight too is, what kind of self-audits did you have to have? Did you have to self-audit the people you surround yourself with? Did people start acting differently when you started scaling? Like, even people older than you, were you given bad advice? Like, do you think, like, were there people in your circle that were beneficial at the start that eventually, like, you outgrew those relationships? Like, were there seasons of loneliness? Walk me through a little bit of that.
I would say the toughest part was kind of shifting what to focus on. Because when I got started, I got dropped into this wonderful position that I was so excited to be in, and I immediately had a million goals, a million big ideas. And so kind of this self-audit that had to happen was picking what was best for the organization and picking the goals that aligned with each other. So the goal wasn't just to be the biggest, something I'm proud of, but the goal wasn't just to be the biggest, it was to be the most powerful. I wanted EXP Young Professionals to be a leadership pipeline. And so I had to go through all of these big ideas that I and everyone else on the leadership team had for the organization and really pick the goals that best aligned with the vision of what EXP Young Professionals looks like at its very, very best.
And what we've done with EXP Young Professionals, One EXP, and just EXP in general, is we've perfected the economic flywheel, right? You're demonstrating to agents that what they put in is what they get out. You're giving them the tools, the systems, the relationships, and the leadership development, not just to grow as an agent at EXP, but to also grow as a leader across the industry, right? Like, it is a concentrated pool of elite agents who are excelling because we understand that proximity is power, that belonging turns into business outcomes, that with young professionals, and you've demonstrated this by experience, is that you're one connection, you're one relationship, you're one yes away from changing your life or changing someone else's life. And one of the things that I've seen from young professionals is like your success is directly proportional to your ability to problem solve, to impact, to cultivate relationships, and to consistently propel them forward. Like, your whole model is based on the ability to give back to community because you're bettering the agent experience, you're bettering their relationships, you're bettering their quality of life, and you're ultimately bettering the general members of the public. So in that period of growth and scale, from 7,000 to over 20,000, was there a moment where that growth scared you, where you thought, am I in my head?
For sure. When I got elected to chair, I was the youngest person on the leadership team by quite a bit. Not to say that everyone was much older, but I was the outlier being so much younger. Now we have some more teenagers on the group, which really excites me. But at the time, I was the youngest. And there was this self-doubt that came with that of, okay, I'm 21, we just hit 20,000 people. Like, what does this look like as we continue to scale? And was I ready for it? At 21, so last year, 2025, I was less than 3 years in the business, coming up on 3. And it was like, okay, well, there's people on my team that have been doing this for a decade. There's people in our membership who have been doing this for 3 decades. And it was this kind of like deer in the headlights feeling of, okay, this is becoming a really visible organization very quickly. So how do I now that I've got the team to buy in, because they knew me, they know, that know, love, and trust thing we talk about in real estate, I had that with the team. Now I had to build that with 88,000 real estate agents across eXp Realty and all of the people who were watching in from the outside.
I think what the key thing too is when you're talking about scale at that level, is that this wasn't just Gracie, right, connecting with 83,000 agents. Gracie understood the economic advantage behind diversity. So you pulled different vantage points, right? Because you understood that different vantage points get you more market share, because you are now having a leadership team, a table of people that reflect the markets that you actually serve. And I think one of the most powerful things that has come up time and time again across each episode is that the most successful people that we know aren't the ones that are waiting for a seat at the table. They're building the freaking table. Like, you have built the table because you walked into this industry young. While supported at times, you didn't see yourself necessarily in those that supported you, which is a key thing. That's what we talk about when we talk about agent attraction. When you talk about building a team, a company, anything, even just friends, right? Like, people join people that they see themselves in. Period. Baseline. Culture. And culture can't be replaced because you can't replace people, right? Like, even if another brokerage tries to emulate what Gracie does, they don't have Gracie's people, right? And I think that that's super important. And when we talk about these young professionals, why do you think that this specific demographic needs community inside of a brokerage? Like, what's at stake for the 19-year-old, the 21-year-old who's building a loan right now?
Building a loan at a young age can feel very alienating. You're much younger and very set apart from your colleagues, as we've discussed, but it can also be very alienating from the people around you, like in your personal life. I've had friends that were going to college, friends that were getting married. having kids, and I was kind of in my own corner building a business alone. You know, of course, alone, exterior to the community and the support, like you mentioned. At the end of the day, it is still a solo race. And I would say that isolation could be very, very challenging for a young person because we don't have proof yet. We haven't proven to ourselves yet. You know, of course, at this point, it's very different than when it was at 19. At 19, even the most supportive, loving people in my personal life had a lot of doubt.
Yeah. I 100% get that. Just even in this current season of my life, like just through every season, I've had to continuously self-audit what information I digest from others around me, right? Because people do change. And you're right, like there was no proof building this out. When you're young and you're starting out, like it felt like for me, I'm looking at someone's step 10 and comparing it to my step 1. And I'm questioning why at 22 years old, I don't have a maxed out Roth IRA, multiple investments. I'm not making 6 figures yet. Like I hit 6 figures at 21 and still felt like that wasn't enough because I'm comparing myself to 40 something, 50 something year olds with Lamborghinis and have spent decades and have the reps. And one of the things, and this is just speaking from my vantage point, is that in our 20s, and even like 19, one of the things that I've noticed when interacting with older people and just seeing how they navigate and regulate is me in my 20s, like I have big emotions. Like I feel everything with my whole body. When I'm happy, you can see it, you can feel it everywhere. When I'm also upset or I'm disappointed, it also hits me hard. Like I wear my heart on my sleeve. Whereas I see as people navigate through different seasons of their life in entrepreneurship, they get more calloused and they understand how to compartmentalize their emotions. Like disappointment isn't like the world crashing on them. We're like in the beginning stages of my career when I failed, I felt like the world crashed on me. Whereas like now, if that same thing happened, I've compartmentalized and I can like rationalize with my emotions a lot better. Like, and that's something that they don't talk about for young professionals. Do you feel the same?
For sure. And when when we look for leaders on our leadership team, I'm not looking for the person that sells the most volume. I'm not looking for the person that has the best social media and the best logo. I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for the person that fails forward. Because that's a skill that I can't teach. Life will teach you that. Experience will teach you that. Mindset will teach you that. But failing and rejection are such a normal and frequent part of this business. You have to be failing often to be succeeding. And so when I look for highly skilled, highly talented individuals, I am looking at the skills I can't teach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which I think is super important. What do you wish someone had handed to you at 19 that EXP Young Professionals now gives to agents?
The community. The community. Yeah. I didn't know it was here. And at the time, EXP Young Professionals was much smaller, even smaller than it was when I inherited it. And I just wish that I had known I wasn't the only person having this experience of being the youngest person at every room I walk into. An Alabama driver's license is vertical when you're 21, or excuse me, before you're 21. And I remember a closing officer joking when I sat at a table with a 19-year-old couple that was buying their first house about, wow, it's all a bunch of teenagers. And she was sweet, but she was laughing about it's not a common experience. And I wish I had known that uncommon experience was shared. I wish I had known there were people out there experiencing the same struggle, the same self-doubts. So I wish if anyone had handed me anything, I wish it would have been a community sooner.
Yeah. And that's so powerful. And that uncommon experience is your differentiator. That is what separates you. For the longest time, like I thought being young was a liability for me. And I'd always, like you said, would try to portray myself as older. And partially, like, I feel like I grew up a lot sooner because I pushed myself to almost too far where like I forgot to have fun. Like I forgot that I was 22, 23, still experiencing life. I was so serious. And I didn't want people to see that side of me because I thought it would be portrayed as immature, like people to see my failures because they portray me as inexperienced. But what I've learned is like your youth is your differentiator because you didn't have to go through 40 spins around the sun to understand some of the things that you understand now. You're able to impact more people at scale for a longer period of time because you understood how to harness the concepts now. And I think one of the most important things about a leader, and this is something that like I personally practice, like everything that I preach, like are things that I also need to hear. Like I am learning in real time with my people. I'm learning and I'm growing with my people. Like if we were to look at like reels and clips of me 7-8 months ago to now is completely different. I didn't have a social media presence by then. Like I think the most important thing about leadership, and Gracie, that you've demonstrated so well, is that you're allowed to lead and learn in real time, and you're allowed to feel forward. You're allowed to create the safe space for agents to learn how to be leaders, because if you're not screwing up, then you're doing something wrong. So I want to know, because this is something that we talked about too, that there's a narrative in real estate that you have to prove yourself to have a seat at the table, right? And I think from your story that you've clearly rejected that narrative very early on. How do you help young agents in your network do the same thing?
That question. I'll say this. I didn't reject the idea that you have to prove yourself. I redefined what proof looks like because I knew that I wasn't going to win by being the most experienced agent. And starting out, I knew I wasn't going to win by having the most volume. But what I learned about agents who have been doing this for a very long time is they are prone to cognitive fixedness, the old way of doing things. And so what I teach young people, and something that I myself embraced, was knowing, number one, I will have more audacity than you. I will outwork you. And that took me further than the agents who fell back on, well, I've been doing this for 25 years. Obviously, the listing is mine. No, it wasn't.
Nope. And
you don't get the benefit of the doubt when you're starting out at 19. People aren't giving you that. You do get the burden of proof. But redefining what proof looked like was pivotal for me. And also learning I didn't need a seat at their table. I needed to build my own table. But I didn't have to do it alone. And I think that's what a lot of people, that is the one element a lot of people miss. They spend so much time in competition that they forget the power of collaboration.
Yes. And what does belonging actually unlock for a young professional that nothing else can?
Oh, that's powerful. I would say belonging looks like a couple of things. I've got agents in the network that are the number one agent in a major metro area. I've got agents in the network that are 18 years old, have never sold a single house. Belonging doesn't look like finding people who are doing the same thing as you. It looks like finding the people who are on the same journey. When you surround yourself with people who are aligned with the future version of yourself, that's where magic happens. Something, we talked about earlier, sometimes you have to shed your relationships when you outgrow them. And that's really, really hard, especially when you already at times feel alone. But you have to align yourself with the right people. They say the 5 people you spend the most time around are the people you will be the most like. Yeah. So when we welcome people into EXP Young Professionals, we're not just welcoming them into a social club. We're welcoming them into the opportunity to align with the people they want to be.
Yes, that is so powerful, and I love that, and it's very true. And the testimonials and the agent stories that come out that are incredible. Just the impact, and like we talked about, the economic flywheel that's built on reciprocity. Like you are changing agents' lives in real time, and it's so amazing to see you at such a young age being able to defy those statistics, defy what people have doubted, and the things that have said. You're known for strategy, for storytelling, and having a deep commitment to people. I think that is obvious in this conversation. And it's safe to say that those 3 things are not always naturally aligned together. How did you figure out the combination was yours?
Unintentionally.
Yeah?
It looked like a lot of failing forward. And I said earlier, you're not going to outwork me, and I mean that. Because I am willing, I was a roller skater, and I was really good at it. But something you have to know about roller skating is you are very likely to fall often. The thing that makes a good skater isn't someone with natural born talent. The truth is, there isn't a whole lot of that. The thing that makes a good skater is someone that's willing to fall and get up more times than anyone else. And I feel that way about finding my strengths in this business. Because, you know, you hear it often, people go a mile wide and an inch deep, and you're not going to strike gold that way. So I was really intentional about trying the things that were most natural to me and finding out that some of those things weren't. So when I really identified the things I was very good at, I focused. I'm really, really good at connecting with people on a personal level. I have note cards sitting all over my office from where I send people postcards all the time, because if it's one thing I'm good at, it's relationships. And I so value that term, or that phrase, a deep commitment to people, because I feel like it so accurately reflects the last 2 years of my work, just really investing in the people and the world around me.
Was there ever a time that you almost chose like a safer or more conventional path?
I have to say no.
Yeah?
I have to say no. So when I was still in high school, I looked at going to college. I'm one of those persons that's fascinated with engineering, something I'm really kind of obsessed with. But I looked at it and I was like, man, this does not set my soul on fire the way that real estate does. And I think to a degree, it was understanding how high risk this career was. Understanding the rate of failure kind of excites me. And so when I considered other options, it all felt so monotonous. I wanted to get into something exciting and hard that I could do my way.
I think the powerful thing that you said indirectly is that you didn't build a plan B. And I think that for anyone who's set to attain any amount of success, you burn every other bridge, right? And so that the only way path is forward. I mean, that I did that in real time right now. I moved to Denver on Thursday, and I, in order to do that, burned every single bridge. So even if right now I decided I don't want to go to Denver, that is physically not possible. There's money invested, things scheduled. I don't even have half my belongings in the house. You've got to, whatever it's set out to be. So for you, it was entrepreneurship. It was real estate. Creating a plan B, C, that's anticipatory for failure. That's anticipating that this might not work, so I'm going to invest energy in this one. If you put all of your energy into entrepreneurship, into real estate, into creating legacy, into being successful, pouring into other people, then like we said before, it's only temporary defeat until you accept it as permanent failure. On a previous podcast last week, I had mentioned a story that I heard of this guy at a bar who would always get so drunk, and then outside of the bar, he'd pick fights with people, and he would just start swinging on them. But every single night, he would always get his ass whooped. He would be the one to start the fight, but he would be the one that got pounded, right? He would be the one that got beat up. And after 2 weeks of this, even though he had never won a fight, no one messed with him. Not because he was the strongest, but because he was the most persistent in continuing to fight with people. So you don't have to be the smartest person in the room. You don't have to be the highest production. If you simply won't accept the circumstance for what it is until you achieve your definitive aim, it's only a matter of when, not if. And you don't ask yourself how do I get there? You ask yourself, who do I have to become? What kind of character do I have in order to attain the success that I envision? Because it's every new level is a new devil, right? Every level of success you've achieved, Gracie, I imagine that there has been a new set of problems with a new set of responsibilities and an extra load of weight that you bear as a leader, right? Because we encompass the responsibility. So I love that you touched on that. So for an agent who's looking at this in awe, wow, Gracie is incredible. She's leading the world's largest organization for young professionals. What do you want that agent who's watching this right now, the one who feels like they're too inexperienced, that they're too early on in their season, what do you want them to know?
If I want them to do one thing, just one, I want them to lose interest in perfection. There's this quote floating around right now, and I couldn't love it more, that says, while you are waiting on perfection, someone with less talent is reaching your goals. And to me, that means that you have to be relentless in pursuing the things you are passionate about. I talked earlier again, I say it a lot, audacity is my word. I love the word because when I fail and I fail forward, I am getting stronger with every rep. And you nailed it. Every next level you achieve comes with new problems. You said earlier, you compare your level 1 to someone else's level 20, and I relate to that. But you have to let go of it. Because the only way you reach that next level is if you keep pushing forward to get there. And as far as not having a plan B, that's because I know how to pivot without taking my eyes off of the end goal. To do that, you have to let go of perfection.
That's so powerful. Progress over perfection, right?
100%.
Fall forward the most, right? The more times that you fall forward, then ultimately you're getting the reps in so that you are a culminations of your wins and losses. And every successful person has had forks in the road where they've lost everything, built it back up. I always say, if you lost everything today, you could build it back, but faster because you have the experience. You didn't lose everything. You may have materialistically lost things, but mentally, you now can build and scale faster. So I love that. So the key is take action. Fall forward the most. Have the audacity to say that you belong in every room that you decide. Kick down the doors, build the damn tables yourself. And it's only temporary defeat until you accept it as permanent failure. So keep going because you're always, like we said, one yes, one relationship, or one connection away from changing your life. Gracie, for someone that has been moved by this conversation, that wants to get plugged into the Young Professionals Network, how can they get in contact with you or get plugged into the community?
To get in contact with me, reach out to me on Instagram. I am very Gen Z. I live on social media. It's at Gracie Barnhill Realtor. To plug in with YP, you need to do 2 things. Follow us on Instagram, exp.youngprofessionals, and follow our Facebook group, EXP Young Professionals YP.
Well, Gracie, thank you so much for the conversation today, your leadership, and truly paving out an extraordinary path for agents to find success, to find community, and to find legacy in people. And just thank you for everything that you're doing. And I'm so excited to see what you're going to build in 2026.
Thank you so much, Cameron. Thank you for having me.